This is The Extra Point, an Arizona's Family Originals podcast, sponsored by your Phoenix Suns.
Well, never a dull moment in the Valley of the Sports. Frank Vogel no longer is the head coach of the Phoenix Suns, so let's discuss it. So we bring in our panel of three guys in white shirts and Julia Lopez. You didn't get the memo about the dress code here?
I didn't. Not today.
Next time. We'll try to coordinate. All right, let's just go rapid-fire reactions. J-Lo, you got to get out of here, but let's start with you. Frank Vogel no longer the coach of the Suns. Your reaction to that news?
Not very surprised. I don't think a lot of us were that surprised. I will say the key factor was when Devin Booker, after Game 2, when they lost to the Minnesota Timberwolves, he said that some things, off inside the locker room. Something's off inside within the team, and it comes with communication, and obviously that does start with the coach, like how you communicate with your players, how they interact with each other, and like how long it took for that core three to really build some type of chemistry. It just took a long time, a lot longer than we all expected.
Do we have hopes that there is chemistry there, Elliott?
No. Not really. I mean, I'm also a very pessimistic sports viewer in general, but
why? Because all your teams left.
Yeah,
Oakland.
So that might play a factor. Thank you again for that reminder, Mark. But I just don't see. And I kept telling Nick, and I think Julia, and even you throughout the entire playoffs, I just didn't see like that dog in this team. Like there's nobody who, like, when you needed a bucket, like, they were going to say, get out of the way, I got this, or anything. And, like, they're three great players, the big three, and building blocks that any team would want to have, but I just don't see the connection that you need them to have in the playoffs in order to make those runs, in order to get a defensive stop or a bucket in crunch time.
Nick, more disappointed or frustrated by watching the Suns this year?
Ooh, disappointed. Yeah, because the last couple of years were such a high, and I loved going to games, and from November on, going down there, it was just like, this is weird. This isn't right. I kept describing the atmosphere as like sleepy, those early season games. I mean, the thing I'm thinking about now is like the tone seemed different from 8 days ago until today. Like James Jones, Matt Ishbia, how many times did they mention 49 wins in the regular season? Like,
right.
Nobody cares about 49 wins in the regular season, and they knew that. They knew what the expectations were for this team. And then today, the quote from James Jones in that release was what? Something about being like a massive, like way below the expectations or the standards. See if I can pull it up. Okay,
I just deleted it from my phone. But yeah.
Last season was way below our expectations.
Right.
I was like, yeah, it was. Like, where was that 8 days ago? But 8 days ago, Matt Ishbia said they were going to spend the next 3 days talking to everyone in-house. So, yeah, on one hand, it's like, what took you so long? But the only thing that I can imagine is that they talked to Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal especially, and realized, okay, this is untenable, which it was. There was no possible way you could bring back those three and Frank Vogel. Kevin Durant said those were the four leaders of the team. You couldn't have them all come back and expect that anything was going to be different.
But Vogel said with conviction before the last game of the year, he had the full confidence of Matt Ishbia.
This stinks for Vogel. Like, he was
right. I guess what are you going to say? I mean, like, news conference, there's these are corporations. There's certain things you can and can't say. So do we think that he really believed that he was coming back?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, he may have wanted to believe that, right, but in his heart of hearts, he knew what job he was taking and what those expectations were. And by the way, good luck to Mike Budenholzer, whoever takes it next, because it's probably not going to be much different.
So who should take it next?
I think that they should take a look at Budenholzer. I mean, I don't think that he's necessarily the sexy pick, but I think that he's somebody that has obviously been deep in the playoffs before. But I don't know that there's an easy answer to this question right now, because Tyronn Lue, I mean, like, okay, he's won before, but I mean, like, he had a transcendental player on his team. I just don't see any of these candidates that are even, some of them aren't even available at this point. Like, I mean, like, some of them are talking about signing extensions with their existing teams and stuff like that. But nobody in my mind is going to be like, oh, that's the person who's going to turn around the Suns, because I think that it starts obviously with the players. And like I just said before, I don't think this three is built to win a championship.
And you got to wonder what the Lakers are also going to do with their head coaching position, too.
Right.
So you guys are, two great teams are going to be going after, probably one or two coaches out there. So.
And that's what happened last time. And Monty Williams turned down the Lakers to come to the Suns. And then, okay, here's my other question here. 2021 Suns, 2022 Suns, 2023 Suns. Are they which one's a better version of the 2024 Suns? Could one of those teams have gotten farther in the playoffs this year? If you'd have kept together, you look depressed. So why don't you start?
I was going to say, he's going to talk about the Twins now.
Now it's just boggling my mind thinking about it. Because I don't know, watching this playoffs, whether the Suns team that went to the finals would have beaten the T-Wolves.
Interesting.
This T-Wolves team looks fantastic. And that, the knock on the Suns getting to the finals was that they didn't play anyone that was really good or healthy along the way. Like the Clippers didn't have Kawhi and the Nuggets didn't have Jamal Murray. Probably beating the Lakers in the first round was as good of a
LeBron was
win.
banged up in that series.
Didn't AD get injured in that series?
Yeah, AD got injured in that series too. So
that's kind of like every series as we take shots at the Lakers here. So we mentioned Budenholzer here, but other names that have been thrown out. The one I really like is Becky Hammond of the Las Vegas Aces. I think that would work if you keep the big three together. I think nobody's going to want to mess up the first female coach in NBA history, and there will be a certain level of accountability that is going to be hard to institute with three guys making $50 million.
But you better be sure that they're fully bought into her. And I mean, no knock to Becky Hammond. She's put together an elite resume as a player and as a coach. But I mean, as it almost seems like the big three are leading this coaching search almost in a way. And I was talking to you about this beforehand. Who is going to be a good option for them? And I honestly don't even think they know. So I definitely don't know.
And when it comes to Becky, like the big three already had pressure. When you add a female coach, the first female coach in NBA history, you're adding 20 times more pressure as well, to win. So that would be super interesting, though. And go Rammies too, by the way.
Oh shit, Colorado State Ram. I think everybody'd be on their toes. Everybody would, it would be a heightened sense of awareness. You wouldn't have this sleepiness during the regular season. Another name that's been thrown out, JJ Redick. Maybe you get them both. I mean, bring the whole circus to town. Trade KD for LeBron right now and bring in Bronny.
I love Redick. Now, I agree. I think that's really a fascinating way to look at the Becky Hammond idea, like this accountability and we can't mess this up. Really fascinating. But it's Tyronn Lue, as you mentioned, I think that's probably your best candidate, who can't really be a candidate because he's under contract. Chauncey Billups has been thrown out there. Interesting, I think, on a similar level to Lou, would garner the respect of those guys.
And that's Book's favorite player from growing up in Detroit.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and that's what I was thinking about primarily with Chauncey.
But at this point, we're not even just choose their favorite players growing up. Billups hasn't done anything for Portland. And granted, Portland's an awful team, but what are the qualifications at this point?
Isn't that kind of what they did at the roster? Like, you get a friend, and you Royce O'Neal's friends with Kevin Durant. Bring him in. Bring back Ish Wainwright. He's friends with Devin Booker. If you have a friend at work, things will be better at work. Isn't that
it's all about connections, Mark?
Right.
Here's my question. How much of this, you're that idea of I don't even think they know what they want. Yeah. Kevin Durant is such an enigma.
Yeah.
The stat that I saw tweeted today, Kevin Durant since leaving Golden State, 6 head coaches, 2 playoff series wins.
I mean, we're talking about one of the greatest players of all time, and this is now the third franchise that has been in a pretty rough spot. Maybe he sticks around and fixes it because apparently he likes living here. I mean, but he's going to be 36 years old. He's looking to score his 30 and have other guys, throw the elbows, right?
He's not a leader. He's just not. He obviously is still an elite bucket getter, but he's not. I mean, when we asked him that question about who's the leader of this team at the press conference right before Game 4, he just was like, Frank Vogel is the leader. He's a very deferential superstar.
Right.
And they need. And I thought Booker was going to take more of a leadership role, but I don't think he did this year, and I don't necessarily know the reason why. But that's kind of what I expected to happen, and I think that played a big reason why they kind of struggled in the playoffs.
I want to know just how long this frustration has been going on within the team. You know how it all came out during the playoffs? What was the buildup prior to that?
Sure.
You know, how long has all this been going on, and then it kind of unfolded at the end?
You thought Booker and Durant hit it off at the Olympics. And I honestly, this seems like this is going all the way to the Olympics this year. And guys are going to go over there and they're going to build their super teams and come back. And we won't know what the Suns roster is going to look like until the third week of the NFL season. I mean, I prepare for chaos.
Yeah.
Here's what I hope. I hope that at the Olympics, KD and Book figure it out.
Right.
Figure out what went wrong and how do we approach this year differently. Because it almost doesn't matter who the coach is if those two and Bradley Beal aren't going to be 100% bought in and just have a different approach to the season, it seems like.
All those blowout losses, we'd see them in the locker room afterwards, and they were just like, yeah, we'll be all right. This is weird almost seeing their reaction to all the bad performances at the end of the year, and they just didn't even seem to care almost.
And I think that's the danger in news conferences of not being 100% forthcoming with information. And again, sometimes you can't, but sometimes you need to get mad, you need to throw chairs, you need to be real. And it just felt like everybody was sort of a corporation this year. Yep. And they were trying to build the conglomerate rather than to build a family. And that's what you get. The sum of the whole didn't equal the parts.
So who's going to bring the passion? Who's going to be that dog that you're talking about?
Yeah.
Who is that guy?
Deion Sanders.
That's why they brought Isaiah Thomas in. Legitimately, to bring that passion.
But they never played him.
Yeah.
I think it was literally...
Oh, you mean the older Isaiah Thomas?
No. The younger one. I think he was there just to try to get guys fired up and have fun and play with fire.
Go out there and get everybody fired up.
Just show them some videos of me dancing.
All right. So what should the Suns do from here? Where do they go? Do they break it up? Do they roll back the big three come opening day in October, or do we see more roster change? And who do we think is going to be the coach?
I think this is a sign that they're bringing the big three back.
Cool.
Again, you couldn't do all four, those three and the coach. Okay, you've moved on from the coach. Now going to be 3 head coaches in 3 seasons, by the way. You bring those guys back because you don't have a ton of other choices to be a short-term contender. You can trade Kevin Durant. You can trade Devin Booker.
God, I mean, what if you end up
whatever you're getting back for either of them isn't going to make you a contender.
And then it's 10 more years wandering in the desert.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
So you're bringing those guys back.
That was brutal.
But you better find. I'm sure that whatever those conversations were with those guys by Matt Ishbia and whoever else he had in those meetings, figuring out, okay, so Vogel's not going to work. Who do you guys think would work?
Who do you guys think would work? Yeah. Bud?
I don't know. But I do think, Mark, you were onto something earlier when you were talking about how it's very convenient that they didn't announce this until right after Media Day, because it would be great for the Mercury, because it would be great to have asked Josh Bartlestein or some of the people that were in the management roles about kind of the process that led up to this and to get their take on kind of was it one or the other, kind of what the kind of dialogue back and forth was. But I don't know. Maybe Ishbia will talk soon and we'll get some answers, but I don't know if there's a clear answer for us at this point. It's a lot of just mediocre possible solutions that don't even really seem like solutions, at least in my mind.
Do we get an answer by next week, do you think? Is Mike Budenholzer back in his home state of Arizona taking the job?
I guess it depends, right? It depends who the Lakers are going after, too, at the same time.
Right.
And is Ty Lue going to leave? Who knows with that? But going back to, the big three, though, I feel like the talent's there. I think that they're going to stay together one more year, get that experience and build that chemistry that they were almost there. And I don't know. I feel like being the optimist that I am,
it's glad we need
they'll be able to figure it out.
You're the optimist, Elliott's the pessimist, Nick's the realist, and I'm just here to get everybody fired up.
Yeah.
What are we most looking forward to this weekend on the sports calendar? Marvin Harrison Jr. on the practice field for the Cardinals for the first time?
Yeah, we'll be there tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because suddenly, the Diamondbacks just came off a sweep, but For a moment there, it was looking like the Cardinals had circled back around to be the most intriguing team in town, just based on the draft.
Yeah.
It's so cyclical, though, because we're sitting here having this conversation. I'm like, I can totally see it going the way the Suns went from 2010 to 2020. Let's just hope and pray it doesn't. And we're not getting back a hockey team anytime, I don't think. That could be for another podcast. All right. Well, we've accomplished a lot. Any final words of wisdom for the masses before we get out of here, Elliott?
I will just say that we were at Mercury Media Day today, and that team, Julia, I think you could agree, like they're fun. Like
Yeah.
I've spoken to some other WNBA players in the past, and you don't see the same kind of bond that a lot of these ones had, and I think that they'll be a breath of fresh air this summer.
Caitlin Clark comes in here, June 22nd or something like that?
Mark
Oh,
that.
that's going to be fun.
I'm saying this after they lost by like 26 in their first preseason game.
Did you bet on it?
I did not.
WNBA
I've
preseason?
taken a break for a while. It's been a rough couple of months for me.
That's our next podcast, Elliott Bets.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
We're just trying to keep me being pessimistic going. See how it is.
All right. We're going to let J-Lo get out of here and get some sleep. She's got to be on the practice field with the Arizona Cardinals tomorrow. This has been the Extra Point Podcast, a production of 3TV, CBS 5, and azfamily.com in Phoenix, Arizona.
This is The Extra Point, an Arizona's Family Originals podcast, sponsored by your Phoenix Suns.